Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, die-in time is here. That's right, we're starting off Season 5 with The Evil Dead on Kill by Kill. Well, greetings and salutations, Internet. It's your old pal, Patrick Hamilton, coming to you once again from the middle of the fucking woods, I guess. This is the Kill by Kill podcast, where we're dedicated to celebrating the least discussed component of any horror film, the characters. And we're going to unpack all the goriest of details of 1981's The Evil Dead by director Sam Raimi, in the hopes that a college pal's untimely end is just the beginning of the jokes who might make at their expense before they're resurrected by a demon and killed once again, maybe. And of course, there's only one person I trust with my notes concerning the excavation of the ruins of Kandahar with the group of my colleagues, the one, the only Gina Radcliffe. How are you doing today, Gina?
I've come to realize that my podcasting partner and dear friend has now become a deadite himself.
You know,
I'm sorry, I was in the middle of recording the transcription of the big book.
So let's say, Gina, okay, we just recently met in real life, which was 7+ years in the making. More than that, than the fact that we knew each other online before that. So I don't even know.
About 8 years.
So if you had to chop me up, how exactly are you going to go about that?
Are you talking like what weapon I would use?
Yes,
or
I'm asking you to choose your own chop venture where you decide if you have to chop me up because I've become a deadite and you put a fancy dagger in me and it steams up real good. So I'm kind of down for the count, but you have to make sure because the guy on the tape said you have to chop me up. How exactly are you going to go about doing it in a timely fashion?
I mean, I do think an electrical weapon would probably be the most efficient. Mm-hmm. I'm going to have to go with the good old fashioned electric carving knife.
Yeah. I mean, the problem, of course, with carving knives is they might be semi-inefficient on bone. So you really have to pick your spots. Because if you hit me in the shoulder in the wrong place, like you could be spending all day on that bad boy.
That's true. Yeah. And meanwhile, you're taunting me, you're mocking me, and you're telling me you're going to swallow my soul, and
you'll be dead.
And I'm trying not to lose my mind because things are laughing at me.
Exactly. Every other room is foggy for no apparent reason. Every room seems to be made of a different material. Yeah. And the other way is like, oh, you go for the old fashioned axe. And like, it's true in terms of raw power. It's a very good weapon and you can probably chop through things that you would not normally be able to saw through efficiently. That being said, have you ever hit anything with a fucking axe? Because if you do it wrong, you're going to feel that in your toes. Like you end up like Tom from Tom and Jerry when he tries to smash something with a hammer. It just reverberates.
I was going to say just start vibrating. Yeah, like I'm a noodle arm. So I think maybe I'd get an arm and half a leg off before I'm like, God, I gotta sit down, Jesus. And meanwhile, again, you're turning to me with like the rollback eyes, like, really? You're gonna leave me like this, really?
Right, and then it's just derision and mockery from my chattering ass. Just full of,
I can almost picture this.
Yeah. You know what? It is vivid. And the thing is, like, considering the budget, we could probably put it on. I mean, that's part of the charm, I think, when it comes to the Evil Dead.
I just like hit you in the shoulder. I just get this like entire face full of blood.
Right. I mean, we're switching now from season 4 to season 5, but we're beginning kind of in the same place because we also have a bad milk robot here.
We do indeed.
They are weirdly connected in that way.
We got a little milk robot. We got a little pile of oatmeal happening.
Yeah, for sure. A crew of people who may or may not all be sleeping together. A whole bunch of shit. It's weirdly similar. I guess when it comes to the Evil Dead, there's a bit of backstory, but I feel like almost everyone kind of knows the backstory. I mean, God knows. How many editions of the Evil Dead have you owned as a physical property?
I think I'm on my second or third.
Yeah.
At this point.
I definitely owned it on VHS. I owned it on DVD at least twice. I'm like, I'm not going to buy a Blu-ray. I swore myself up and down. And then it came out with a combo 4K Blu-ray. I'm like, okay.
You got me.
You got me. I'm going to end up doing it for the show. I might as well have a nice resource to pull from. So I bit the bullet on that one. But as part of that, it's like it just becomes part of the lore. You know, okay, so Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell, they're friends. They make funny movies together. They figure the way to really break in what's hot right now is horror. Let's do one and have a lot of fun with it. And by fun, that means Sam Raimi just punishes Bruce Campbell on screen. And so they kind of test it out with a short film they call Within the Woods. And that costs around $1,600. But if they want to level up from that to a full-fledged film that they can put into drive-in theaters, they figured they're going to need around $100,000. And so Raimi approaches a lawyer friend of his and goes, who can we get to get money from? And so they start asking family members, and family members ask other people they know that have some loose cash around. And apparently a lot of dentists were involved. A lot of dentists have loose cash, possibly from people's mouths. I'm not sure.
Sure. I mean, imagine like, you have like a gold tooth and your dentist steals it, but it turns out that like he cashed it in to pay for the Evil Dead.
Right.
I mean, I'd be all right with that if I knew that.
Yeah.
Like a little piece of me went into that movie.
And they filled it in with lead or some appropriate thing for your mouth. I'm sure it's fine. So they originally entitled it Book of the Dead, but eventually they figure out that the Evil Dead is a more active name for it. And they get a bunch of their friends together. They go off to Morristown, Tennessee. My God. That must be a garden spot by the looks of it. Every other place they go to is either lush green or the deadest shit you've ever seen in your life. And so they, get together. They have a loose idea of the script. They just keep shooting and shooting and shooting and shooting on 16 millimeter. They make a lot of mistakes. They end up doing a lot of insert shots. They fill it with foam latex and fake blood and can you imagine something from your college days that would go on to become a beloved cult object?
I mean, we used to do, play around with improv comedy, but probably nobody wanted to see that. That was not turning into a cult classic.
Yeah. I directed a short play that a friend of mine wrote, and it was legitimately funny, and we had good ideas in it and stuff. And we ended up submitting it and went into competition and stuff. Like, it went a long way. But like, no one knows what a clown called Bobo is. That's probably okay. It's hard for me to believe that something you did way back when can still live as long and as deeply and as influentially as The Evil Dead. When was the first time you saw this movie?
Well, I was going to ask you if you, like me, actually saw Evil Dead 2 first.
Yes. The video rental guy would rent me Evil Dead 2, which is what I brought up to the counter. I said, I've heard I need to see this. I love horror. I love special effects. And he goes, okay. And I asked like a bunch of times. So he said no a bunch. And then finally he goes, all right, I'm going to rent this one to you. But that does not mean I will ever rent the first one to you. You're just not ready for that. And so I lived with the idea that I would never be ready for the original Evil Dead. So by the time I got to it, it was such a forbidden, piece of media. And then on top of it, it is a rather shocking watch. It is so different tonally from 2 that it really does put you on your back heels.
Well, the interesting thing is a lot of people, myself included, is Evil Dead 2 essentially follows the same beats as Evil Dead 1.
Yeah.
But it's much more humor driven. It's a lot more slapsticky and you could see the seed planted for what would eventually be Army of Darkness. Yeah. I honestly don't think I saw the first Evil Dead until I was an adult, and there was a theater that was playing both Evil Dead 2 and Evil Dead 1. I'm like, well, here's my opportunity. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I saw Evil Dead 2 years before seeing the first one.
Yeah, I practically had 2 memorized by the time I saw the original one. And yes, it is basically a remake. It is a revision in the same way that the original Within the Woods is that this is a remake of that, only expanded and expanded. But I think what 2 does so well is that it kind of like, okay, what worked? What could we really make hay out of that concept and not worry about continuing the story, but almost revising the story? And
right, it was almost like sort of, I don't know if what he's correcting some errors, but just trying it the same thing with a different coat of paint on it.
It's a different draft of what could be considered the same story. Right. It's certainly not in any way that I can discern a genuine sequel, unless you interpret the I'm retelling the tale at the top of it and him eventually getting, go-go cammed at the end of this movie, which of course we won't be discussing in this episode because we're breaking it up. But I feel like the Evil Dead, its goals are different than Dead by Dawn in a lot of respects in terms of what do I do with that story.
Right.
And yet it shares so much DNA with other things that we've covered, because while Friday the 13th is a bunch of, college kids are out in the wilderness and are hunted down one by one, this has the more fantastical take of demons and possession and aggressive direction from Sam Raimi. Like there's nothing that really approaches anything that's accomplished in the Evil Dead in Friday the 13th in terms of, oh my God, this is a movie.
Yeah, I mean, the primary difference between the two of them is, again, Evil Dead 2 has a lot more humor to it.
Yeah.
And everybody has learned to act a little more.
Yes. Oh,
you could definitely tell that the even Bruce, the love of my life, mm-hmm. in the original, none of them were seasoned actors.
Right. Yeah, and because everyone's trying it out, and I think because the ambition here is to just make a movie, and the end result is, hey, this is an actual movie. I
thought we were just fucking around.
Right. They fucked around and made a real fucking movie. And there are so many examples of people who have attempted the same thing of we're all going to put on a show in a barn, and it ends up being the hardest thing you've ever tried to force yourself to watch in your life. Whereas here, you get everything you need to know about these people in the first 3 fucking minutes while they're driving there. And right. Then it's just mood time. Then it's just dread until shit starts happening, and shit starts to happen right away. It's just, there is a purpose and a drive, and it clicks and it goes. It's never waiting around trying to do shit you don't care about.
Right.
I mean,
exactly. Yeah, it does hit the ground running.
Yeah. My mind always flashes back to this one sci-fi. Well, at least they showed it on sci-fi. It probably wasn't meant for it, but where this group of teens are off on spring break or whatever the fuck they're doing, and they're driving down the road and they hit the cub of a mama grizzly, and the grizzly then spends the rest of the movie killing them off one by one. But it spends like half an hour trying to get to that baby grizzly. And you're like, why? The Evil Dead does that in 3 fucking minutes.
Yeah, it's just, here are some people, they have at least two of them are a couple.
Yeah.
The other ones are just kind of hanging around.
Yeah.
I think Ash is trying to ask his girlfriend to go steady, I guess, by giving her that necklace. They call him Ashley. He's not Ash yet. Yeah. He's Ashley, which I find an interesting distinction.
And they have a genuine, at least you understand why these people are together in a sense.
Yeah, they do. Which is something that, if you've been listening to us long as we complain about a lot, is, a group of people who, decide they're going to spend an entire weekend together, which can feel like a very long time if you're not enjoying your time there with people that they normally wouldn't get a cup of coffee with.
Exactly.
But here, at least, despite not being the strongest actors in the world, you could tell that they all were friendly with each other in real life.
They all seem to have a rapport.
Right. There's a certain energy there that I appreciate.
Everything kind of gets leveled up. There's a lot of things that you could pick on for this movie, like the fact that Scott, our main guy, you might think in any other movie that if it had just stopped there, you would think he was the main guy. But like everything he's wearing is light tan, and then half the movie's backgrounds are light tan. He just blends into everything.
He's like that. What was that? It was Garden State with
right.
Zach Braff wearing like the paisley shirt, and he's like perfectly blended into the wall.
Yes. And I do believe Scott would have killed his mom by leaving the dishwasher door open. Spoilers.
accidentally paralyzing her.
Yeah. Causing an irreparable rift in his family.
Yeah, that's interesting that you say that in a different movie Scott would have been the hero, because I feel like initially that Ash is sort of the pretty dummy that gets killed off relatively early on.
Yeah. I think the film is filled to the brim with misdirection in terms of how you think this would play out in any other movie. These two guys would be dead, 1, 2, and then it would just be which one of these girls is the final girl. And
yeah, he's a final boy,
because it ends up that these women end up becoming the tools, either by happenstance or whatever, that they are the chosen tools of the Deadites to plague them. And it's interesting how it plays with a very early formula, but a formula that almost everyone else follows. And the Evil Dead has no desire to follow formula. It just kind of is a underground disruptor, as it were. It just doesn't want to play by your fucking rules, man.
Right. And that's why they all of the entire, like, folks, if you love hearing us just like tear things to shreds, you're going to be very disappointed this season. Because both of us love every single there in this franchise. Yeah. There are no clinkers.
There are no clinkers.
No, not even the new ones. Do not argue.
No, there aren't.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to
hear it. I mean, listen, I don't doubt people's genuine emotional reactions to art. That's fine if they don't work for you. If Evil Dead ain't your bag, this is perfectly okay. But this is one of those rarities where it's just banger. banger, banger, banger.
And then you
banger.
have, and then you have like, remake banger. The remake is a banger.
Yes.
How often does that happen? So far every remake we've covered has been but like, here it's like, fuck yeah. And then I mean, would you call that a reboot or a sequel? Evil Dead Rise.
I would call it it's almost like it's a sidequel. It's just it's from the book of Evil Dead. Let's put it
right.
that way.
And that's a banger. Yeah. Like the minute that title card came up, I'm like, movie, I am here for wherever you take me.
It knows exactly what it wants to be, and then spends its entire running time just proving to you that it knows what it is, and it's having a fun time, and it's very cruel, and it's very slick, and it's very gory. It's just,
but it also has the seeds of the original in it.
And I think that's kind of the genius of how the Evil Dead franchise has developed over the long haul, because this 2 is a sly remake of the first one. Ash versus the Evil Dead, or Army of Darkness, is in a sense kind of a side quest. It's kind of like, oh, well, what if I took this and I put it in a completely different genre? And while the remake is, yes, a remake, it's also recontextualizing many of the ideas and deepening them with the entire goal of making a haunting, terrifying, and grueling watch. It's not, there are fun popcorn moments that you get to, but it makes you pay to get to see them.
But also, I feel like, I mean, we're skipping way ahead.
Sure.
But we're just kind of giving
this
an overview.
General. That's why we split this into 2, because I knew we would go off on these tangents.
Right. Because, like I said, if you're expecting us to shred any of these, you're going to be disappointed. Yeah. But one thing that I feel like one of my favorite aspects, and forgive me, this makes me sound like a real monster, but one of the aspects I particularly get a kick out of with the new Evil Dead, not the new one, the Fate Alvarez one, is how one character seems to get the bulk of horrible shit happening to him.
Yes.
To the point where it feels comical, and it also feels very Sam Raimi.
It feels very Sam Raimi. It feels like how he treats Campbell, that he becomes the Bruce Campbell in a way that isn't a hero. What if I did that to a person who's not the hero of this movie?
Right. And what if I finally punish the person who was stupid enough to open that fucking book?
Yes.
It's just like, which is where these troubles always start.
Yeah. And in that sense, like it uses the opportunity to remake as more of a remix, in the way that 2 is a remix of the original. They're just all more inventive than they should be. Yeah. And as a result, they sing a lot more. And the formula is Deadites exist. This book brings people back from the dead in a terrible way, and they cruelly punish people for that transgression. And
they're like, they're not zombies exactly, no. But they're like that they're just possessing your corpse.
Right. Yes. Although you can return back from the other side of it. There are some rules, and things get bendy, and it goes back and forth. And part of that is them playing with you, and part of that is, can you actually come out through the other side? It's all super interesting. I just think the Evil Dead, from its concept to its execution, while this movie does wear all of its low budget, accoutrement on its sleeve.
Yeah, there's literally like stop motion, which I love. I'm a big fan of stop motion.
It's charming. It shows you that you're trying. And this movie tries, and that effort, I think, is very rewarding to the watcher. If you're not expecting a dazzling, slick affair, it gets to dazzling, slick affairs, but it doesn't start there. This one's rough and ready. And people have not figured out their eyebrows. I'll tell you that right now.
And they have not figured out their eyebrows, haven't quite figured out their line readings.
No.
I think my favorite line reading from is when they're crossing, at least in this half of it, is when they're crossing the bridge. And Ash just kind of looks out the window and he's like, don't worry, this bridge is solid as a rock. For some reason, I just love how he says that.
I mean, the thing is, like, they're not one-take wonders, but they all feel kind of like that.
He's so pretty in it, and I can't, it's a good thing because he really has not quite found his bearings yet.
Yeah, but the seeds are there. What Raimi sees in him as, this guy has the face of a leading man, but I know that he will let me slap him around. He would just physically go above and beyond to try to make this happen. And in a sense, there's a Jackie Chan level verisimilitude to this, where he just puts his body on the line. And as such, it's immensely charming. You just go along with it because they're trying so fucking hard.
Right. You can't help but love it. You can't help but love it.
Yeah. And I will say this as we kind of get into the movie here. Having seen a bunch of new horror movies over the last month, I don't think even one of them had the confidence of Dutch Angle Raimi.
No.
Like, the amount of confidence he has of where he puts the camera, how it looks, the purpose of him showing you those shots in that order, where he puts you in a POV shot. All of them have distinct confidence and purpose. He has thought about how to tell this story, and he does not have the budget to get it wrong. And so some of this is luck. A lot of it is raw talent. And then there's just kind of the genius of, you have a bunch of very creative people all working hard to make one thing happen.
Yeah, you're right. There's just, there's not that many movies that kind of show that, I know what I'm doing. Just, watch me do this.
Right. And while there have been several that I've enjoyed very much, I've also gotten, oh my God, I got so annoyed. I will not say the film's name because I genuinely liked it, but I found the cinematography to be Nickelodeon level, like a scary after school special kind of cinematography. I'm like, don't fuck up these performances. Like, this is a tale well told and you're fucking it up by your shitty pictures. It really annoyed the hell out of me. I'm not going to say what it is because, quite frankly, a lot of people liked it and I really liked it, but I also found this one element of it just terrible. I felt it ankled half the movie for me, and I found that very disappointing, especially when there's a lot of good shit going on. Raimi doesn't have that problem. What these people in this car do have is the problem that one of them, namely Shelley, a name that we love here on this show, Shelley has the confidence to sing a song alone in a car full of other people. Can you do that?
That's the most terrifying part of the whole movie, is thinking about doing that.
I imagine being trapped in a car where someone is just singing a song I don't know and do not care for at the top of her lungs. And I'm like, no, thank you. This trip is already doomed.
I am just lady birding out of that car.
And you would have many opportunities, because the other thing Raimi does, and he starts early, and that is he loves an insert shot. It doesn't matter where someone was sitting previous to that insert shot. If he needs your face screaming out a window, he'll just put your face there. It's fine. Just like, people react at a Looney Tunes level of excitement or fear, and you don't doubt it. it just feels like, well, this is how these people are going to act, and I accept it. And then have you ever seen The Old Dark House, the Universal movie?
I don't think so.
I think we should cover it one day on the show. The Old Dark House I think is one of those sleeper favorites of the early monster movies. And it's kind of got the same, it's too funny to be horror and it's too frightening to really be a comedy sort of mix. It's one of the first of those. And I feel like even in its, there's a little bit of that Old Dark House energy going on in this motion picture. And it just moves so fast. As I said before, like in the first 3 minutes, Raimi manages to communicate this cabin is remote. It's run down. The road is fraught. The locals are rubes. The bridge should be condemned. And the only reason the group is going through with it is because they can't really afford to turn back financially. Like they've made the financial commitment to go on this weekend and they're like, oh, everything they hear about it should tell you, turn back now. And then they arrive and you're like, oh, Camp Crystal Lake is like the Four Seasons compared to this joint.
Well, the funniest part is they, and we briefly touched upon this in a messenger conversation, is that they came for this trip well prepared.
Yes.
They have brought they have made dinner.
Mm-hmm.
They have brought a blender.
Yes.
I guess to have some Mai Tais or something on this camping trip, and they brought a salad bowl. A
full fucking salad bowl. Granted, the classic does have a extraordinarily large trunk, and it's not like you're going to need a ton of clothes. So I guess salad bowl becomes a necessity on a trip like this, but that blender really does, because should this place have electricity? Where are the wires going to this place? Because we don't see a single wire being dragged along a pole anywhere close to this joint.
Yeah, this is not some wireless smart blender. This is like some old Oster blender that your mom used to make soup and milkshakes in.
Yeah, I do wonder where the fuck they've plugged this thing into. And what is in it? Is it beetroot and vodka? Like, what the fuck are they doing?
No, I think they made like daiquiris or something. They they have this this whole spread out.
So very quickly, let's review, because there's really only 5 characters that we need to get into. I'm not going to talk about the 2 fishermen on the side of the road. We don't know anything about them other than the fact that they're played by Sam Raimi and Rob Tappert. So let's really get into each of them. We'll start with Scott. He's the smart one. And you can tell because he's drinking moonshine out of a jar while driving on a single lane road.
Always a good idea.
MAR backwards T smart. Then you got Cheryl. She's the artsy one. I cannot confirm or deny that she's also fartsy. That's something you'll have to decide for yourself.
You can only find out if you spent time with her in a dilapidated cabin in the woods.
Yes. And then we've got Linda. She's a Michigan State in the streets, and I think Michigan State in the sheets is my guess.
Again, can't confirm.
And we have Shelley. She's confident enough to sing out loud in a car full of people who do not know what the fuck she's singing and are just resigned to maybe the triple end before she gets to the 4th chorus. And we have Ash. And what I love about Ash in this is that you've already noted, he's more often referred to as Ashley than anything else. And secondly, he can't remember a quote in this. That's how early they set up the fact that he can't remember quotes, Gina. This movie is 1981. They've already seeded that he cannot remember quotes. This movie takes place in the cabin in the woods, and I was genuinely struggling to think up of another cabin in the woods movie before this. I'm sure someone's screaming into their phone right now what it is, but I could not think of one. The closest I came to, is you found the Bates Motel in Psycho, or the Old Dark House in the Old Dark House.
Well, I mean, was there not a cabin in Friday the 13th?
Well, there are cabins. Yes.
So you mean,
truly,
coming across one that they didn't expect to find? You mean, or
just you go to a dilapidated spot thinking you're just going to have a fun weekend, and it ends up becoming a bloodbath. That, in Friday the 13th, they're going there to work.
Yeah, and it's not isolated exactly. Whereas this place is, just literally out in the middle of nowhere.
I guess, it has a bit that it can owe to haunted house movies, especially ones where like the haunting that's like not near anything. So there's that. But that's a grand manse. Whereas there's no 2 rooms in the Evil Dead cabin that look like they were constructed at the same time, including a bathroom that appears to be constructed out of yellow rain slickers.
Yeah, there's a very much of a odd funhouse quality to this house that it's almost certainly intentional. That nothing feels really normal. Maybe the blender was already there.
Maybe it's the friends we made along the way. Maybe the blender was already there. Is that what we're down to?
Exactly. They opened the door. Oh, hey, blender.
Oh my God, blender. I have all the raw materials. I didn't think I could afford to bring a blender with me. The blender is already here.
I didn't think I'd be able to make my pink squirrels.
I once knew how to make grasshoppers with mint, creme de menthe. I don't know that I could remember how to make those, but I did at one point. My father-in-law enjoyed them so much, I learned how to make them, and I got out of practice of that one.
You better hope that you don't find yourself in an abandoned cabin that has a blender.
That's right. I'll just fall right back onto my old bad habits. This cabin is so small that we don't even have a barn of doom. It's a shed of doom, Gina. Cheryl is the first character to get possessed, and she gets a possessed hand. It won't be the last, everyone. And she's forced by the wind to draw a rough Necronomicon, which basically looks like if I tried very hard to draw a Necronomicon.
Drawing it with your eyes closed.
Yeah, kind of like if someone told me, what do you think a Necronomicon looks like? I probably produce what Cheryl manages to put out. And you can really delightfully feel the slapdash in this movie. It looks like it's been filmed inside of a black box. And in a sense, it was. And the second one even more so. But there's also the, let's put on a show quality to the entire thing. It's very charming. And because we all know it's fake, they don't really bother putting effort into the shine and shimmer when the goal here is to just unnerve you, right? They're not going to make that cellar look like $1 million because it's supposed to look like an abandoned cellar with a bunch of random fucking gourds hanging up. And you're like, this is just weird and gross. And it comes off weird and gross.
That it do.
And so the time has come to discuss the elements that everyone has to confront when it comes to the Evil Dead 1981. These dorks traveled across state lines to a cabin in the woods with a fucking blender and a full fucking salad bowl. I don't know what their main at that dinner table is, Gina. Do you know what they're eating? Are they just having salad and...
Yeah, it looks like...
Whatever fucking Mai Tai that is. It looks
like there's a bunch of stuff laid out on the table, but you can't see what it is.
There's a bunch of foil crumpled up, but did they put that in an oven? Was it in a barbecue? None of that accoutrement. I can understand salad because you don't need to cook anything. The blender, that's a reach, but I don't know what they had for dinner, and now I kind of need
it's
to
like
know.
But you got that 4K Blu-ray. You need to freeze that shit and zoom in.
I tried multiple times.
You need to do some Blade Runner close up on that.
Right. Enhance.
It's like, is that a lasagna? I must look closer.
What I do know is they don't even make it through the bread course before that cellar door pops open, and that's when you leave.
Yeah, I like to talk big talk. I've said how I would touch the hand and talk to me, but if I was out in the middle of the woods and this like dilapidated death cabin was the only place I was staying, and like a door just flew open by itself, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go sleep out in the car, guys.
Yeah, no, it's time to drive away in the middle. There's got to
be a La Quinta somewhere in the neighborhood that we could stay at.
There does have to be a La Quinta.
There's always a La Quinta.
There's always a La Quinta.
They're gonna have that. They're gonna have that continental breakfast, the little with the Belgian waffle maker. I love the Belgian waffle maker.
Yeah, no, there's nothing fucking wrong with it. Did I ever tell you a story when Becky and I got fired from Fox? We decided, all right, we're gonna get in Becky's car, and we're just gonna drive up the coast because we've got nowhere to be. We don't know what we're gonna do for a living. Everyone tells us we can do it on our own, but we don't know. This is the first gig we've ever had in television, in television proper, and we survived 2 different administrations, and finally we're like, you gots to leave. And so we take off and we're driving. And we cross the border from California into Oregon. And it's just been forever. I've been driving for so fucking long. I don't know where I am. And we're like, surely we will come across a place to stay. And finally we do. This is before you could get internet on your phone. Finally we do. We pull up to this place that we found on a map. The cops are driving away from it and they stop us. And the guy, we roll down the window and goes, are you planning on staying there for the night? And we're like, well, we were planning on it. And he goes, I would make different plans.
Whoa.
I mean, I've read some snotty Yelp reviews and TripAdvisor reviews, but none of them have been delivered by a cop who said, don't go to that motel. That is not a place for people to just stay overnight. I mean, you got to go elsewhere. I mean,
it sounds really sinister, but probably it's like bed bugs or something.
Right. And you know what? I don't want those either. So, yeah, we slept by the side of the road that night. We could not find a campground, nothing. We ended up sleeping in the Chrysler LeBaron, just taking that car seat back. And oh my God, we ended up finding a very nice place for very cheap, just like 30 or 40 miles up the road after that. But man, I didn't think I was going to survive that night. That was really rough. These people have a rougher night. I'm just going to put that out there. I didn't have to go into a fucking cellar with gourds. Have you ever been in a cellar with gourds?
Not Gina? With gourds, no.
I don't like hanging gourds. It just doesn't seem like a thing I should be a part of.
They look like decaying heads.
And speaking of decaying heads, right away, Scott goes with a fucking jump scare. God damn it, Scott. We're all in the worst cabin in the world, and you're like, I gotta scare you. I cannot wait for his soul to be torn apart, Gina.
There's always a fucking prankster.
This is the movie that taught me to look in the background, because in the basement here we have 1/4 of a Hills Have Eyes poster, which did that college professor hang it up? Like, who was the resident of this?
Put that there.
It was like, I love the Hills Have Eyes. The basement is the perfect place to put this. And someone else like, I'm taking that down. They tore it down, but left one corner of it. I don't know. Maybe it was from a battle with a deadite. Who's to say? But the other thing I've learned from this movie, of course, is a very simple concept. If you find a book bound in human flesh and inked in human blood in a cellar, leave it there.
Yeah, as I said earlier, I couldn't help but admit that should I be at a party with the hand from Talk to Me, I would touch the hand. Mm-hmm. I would not open the book.
You could not pay me enough to open that fucking book.
No, I'm not going to open the book. I'm not going to listen to tapes.
It's not that entertaining. We both listen to shitty podcasts in our past. You try one out.
It's just that, a guy talking like this for 3 hours straight.
It's not entertaining.
Yeah, my wife is dead now.
Let me recant this. Oh, by the way, when I say this gibberish, leaves come to life and gurgle steam.
Boy, that's really
and a volcano erupts. That's
really wild. Have to look into that.
And trees barge in through the window. And then Cheryl reacts like, oh my God. And Scott's like, what are you doing? Like, what do you think? You listened to a tape recording that caused a tree branch to break one of the few windows in your house for the weekend. That would scare me too. Shut the fuck up, Scott. Scott might be one of the worst. He's not the worst, but he might be top 20.
It takes a lot for Scott to acknowledge that something may be amiss in this cabin.
Yes. And the other part that should cause more concern is there's not a single surface or space within this cabin that looks comfortable. No. Like that couch that they're sitting on when he's like, here's a present. Looks like it was designed by the Marquis de Sade.
Yeah, there's nothing that looks comfortable. There's nothing that looks clean. It looks like every surface has been used to perform taxidermy on at some point.
Everyone has rubbed their hands on it, and they were just handling raw hot dogs. It just doesn't look good.
That's very evocative.
The dog is being trained by me to do obstacle course work because he's full of energy and he likes to accomplish things. But in order to reward him for doing things on the obstacle course, I have to feed him hot dogs, Costco hot dogs, because they're the stinky hot dogs, which means at the end of the night, I'm washing my hands many, many times to get rid of the hot dog stank that I've applied to them liberally.
So you've got them on the brain.
Yes, I feel them sometimes when I wake up. Like, have I put my hand into the sack of raw hot dogs? I mean, I guess they're not entirely raw, but they're not cooked either. He sure fucking likes them. He's so fucking bossy out on that obstacle course because there's a bunch of other dogs who are all at the same level as he is. And they're trying to learn things and he has to learn things. But waiting is not something he's into. And he just barks at them. Bark.
It's like, come on already.
Yeah, he's like a New York taxi cab, just honking at people. Honk, honk, honk. There's a lot of honking in your town, Gina.
Oh,
I'm probably the first person to bring this up about New York.
It's so fucking noisy. It's so fucking loud here, Patrick. Can't take it. It's so loud.
It is, but it's a very loud joint. But there's also a lot of good things to it as well. And you live there. That's my favorite thing about New York.
Oh, no. You know what else is good? Those cod fritters we had.
Those cod fritters were fucking awesome.
They were delicious.
Oh my God.
And I'm glad I trusted Ollie and also got a virgin pina colada. Yes, I ordered the same drink as a 13-year-old while Patrick and Becky were throwing back the hard stuff.
Yes. Well, we're seasoned vets. We're trying to start Ollie slow by just introducing him to the fruitiest and sugariest parts of drinks. That's okay. He's a fucking rail, but we got him new shoes because he grew out of his old shoes, and they are planks of wood with leather on top of them. Oh my God, he's so too fucking tall. Anyways, I don't like any of the furniture in this place. You never this opening section of the movie, you never really see a bed. You kind of see people lay down, but you don't get the entirety of what that bed situation is. But I have to assume it is the same thickness and enjoyment level as that couch, which is when Ash sits in it, the entirety of it leans towards him, and it's on the ground.
Speaking of beds, another interesting thing about I think about the dynamics of this group of friends is the horniness level is relatively low.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they're necessarily all here to be getting laid. Like, obviously, you know, Ash and Cheryl are a couple, but they feel pretty chaste.
Yes.
Like, you know, she just kind of gives him this little smooch for him giving her this, you know, kind of very sweet little necklace. And like, I mean, for all I know, they might not have even slept together yet. And like, it's interesting. It's like he kind of removed that element that was already so deeply present in these movies at this point. And these aren't teenagers. These are all like people in their 20s.
Yes.
So, you know, why wouldn't they be, you know, going to a cabin just to get laid? But I don't, that's not present here. I think that's interesting.
It's like, it's not the purpose is for them all to be together.
They're just to hang out. They're just there to hang out.
And, you know, two of the couples might, and Cheryl's just kind of on her own, and she's fine being that sort of fifth wheel.
Oh, Linda's Ash's girlfriend. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You know, Cheryl's kind of, she's there to she's
a little fifth wheelie, but it doesn't seem to, like, there's not really any like pathos about that.
No, there's not a lot of drama put into it because it doesn't invest in personal drama.
Right.
Those character moments happen within action as opposed to, let's talk about it for 15 minutes of this movie to demonstrate that these are different people.
Yeah, and I think, you know, he was also that Raimi was just trying to be economical with characters. Like, he could have given Cheryl a boyfriend, but just wanted one more person to kill.
Right. You know? They literally could not afford another bucket of blood to make them into a monster. I think what also helps knock down the romance is like the most loving moment in this section of the movie is conveyed via close-ups so close to people's faces. You can see the actor's thoughts.
Yeah, he's everybody, like the actor, the directors, they're all trying to work out how they want to do this.
Yes.
Because like I think that Ash is trying to express maybe some slight nervousness about giving Linda this necklace. And as you say, like, this camera is like this is up his nose.
Like, you can count the amount of hairs in his monobrow. And that's like just watching it online. If you're watching the 4K, you're getting every twist and turn of every hair that's right above his nose.
You can count like every pore on his face.
Yes. It's unflattering for even the most attractive of human beings. Now imagine with the lack of makeup budget that this thing has going on. No one is doing any personal tweezing. And as a result, you're seeing a lot of that section of their faces.
But yeah, like it's for some reason, like while he's thinking about giving Linda this necklace, and I guess she's just kind of waiting for him to do something.
Yeah.
Like it just kind of shifts back and forth to like these wildly unflattering close-ups.
And you're just like, how long is this going to go on? It's like longer than you want, but shorter than I feel Raimi could have done.
I feel like, you know, if you did a little longer, it would have turned into like a Family Guy bit, where it goes on so long it starts becoming funny, and then it stops being funny, and then it becomes funny again.
Right, and I think that now we're the DNA for 2 is in here in more ways than one. It's just like there is a refinement of the concept and just changing the notes where you're de-emphasizing the genuine shock and horror, and we'll get to that, and upping the comedy and just taking those elements and pushing the dial up on it. And it just works in the film's favor. And there's raw talent going on here. Otherwise, I think this would be interminable. We would be talking about Things, and Things is audacious in many ways, but also there's a lack of you fall into making a Things. You don't say, this is what I was going for. That's the end result. Meanwhile, a floating camera, probably a camera nailed to a 2x4 held by two people, because that's what a shaky cam is floating outside of Cheryl's window, and someone goes, "Join us." And wouldn't you know it, Cheryl fucking does.
Sure.
Listen, Brenda hears the call for help, and she goes outside. Cheryl isn't out to look for somebody to help. She just wants to know who's fucking with her, because she has a feeling someone is fucking with her. Another thing I enjoy about this movie is that the moon has no fixed position or size in the sky. It can just look however it wants at any point in time. Sometimes the moon's over there and it's tiny, and sometimes the moon is over here and it's fucking gigantic. It does what it wants, you know, how the moon works.
Exactly.
Okay, everybody, buckle up, because we're at the woodland rape scene. So,
yeah,
I will put a content warning in the descriptor of the episode, because we don't necessarily wish or want to linger on this section. It has certainly been discussed at length. And I will only say that I don't think it's any less shocking now than when I saw it.
No. It's still pretty hard hitting.
The unreality of it doesn't really lessen the impact. It's a violation both of Cheryl and our idea of what nature is. There are components of it that feel very gothic, like it's a Hammer horror movie, and a buxom gal in a nightgown has been, chained up to a wall by a vampire. It's got that. And then there's also the close-up roughy style to it, which is just like part budget and part how unrelenting it all is. It just feels uncomfortable. It looks uncomfortable. And it changes the entire temperature of the movie from that point forward. It is exploitative, but I don't feel like it's exploitation. People are allowed to think differently and have different opinions of that.
Yeah, you're right that it does change the tone of the film, where at that point it feels a little silly, a little low budgety. Again, we keep teasing how nobody in this is a particularly strong actor.
Yeah,
and you're kind of wondering, okay, where's this going to go? It's like, oh, okay, this movie's going places.
Yes, this movie has a purpose to it, and no one is safe. And if it can do this to one character, no one is safe. Maybe you're not safe watching it. That's how it felt to me the first time I watched it. And even watching it last night, I was like, Jesus fucking Christ. It's a lot. It's just a lot to put out there.
It is.
And I think one of the biggest leaps here in terms of story that we haven't dealt with up to this point is that there's something in the woods is the woods themselves. It's not a lone creature who's hunting you. It is, when you deliver the incantation, the woods are just part of what is going to attack you. I wrote a note as Cheryl was trying to get back through the front door. There's that whole sequence of her reaching for the keys and trying to get in, and Ash finally opens it. And then she gets inside, the door closes, and then the entity stops. Why? What is it about the door closing? Like it crashes through windows. What is it about this door closing that makes it back off? Do you think?
They're very polite. So they said no. They mean no.
They've got a touch of the Dracul where they can only go where they're invited.
They did not see a welcome mat out.
Sure.
They're respecting that. No solicitors. Baby sleeping. Do not knock. Sign on out front.
Baby on board. No, I'm sorry. That's the car. I would like to think, and I don't know that there's this much thought put into it, but this is what occurred to me last night, that the very edifice of modernity is what the entity doesn't like. It likes the ground. It likes the woods. It doesn't like structure.
It doesn't like having to turn a doorknob.
Right. What are we fucking doing here? Right? I'm a creature who's been reawakened from an eternal slumber, and all I want to do is tear humanity apart. The easiest way to do that is just find a bunch of them standing around a campfire, possess one of them, and start ripping them to fucking shreds. Now you've got houses? Fuck this noise. I don't like houses. It doesn't matter how rustic the cabin is. Like the fact that it's a shelter built by like the hands of human beings just repels it like a
just imagine like it slumbers for a few more years, it comes back, someone's built a deck. Oh fuck!
Oh Jesus fucking Christ!
Come on, people.
I'm sorry. You have a jacuzzi? Where's the water supply out here? Like how much water are you using? You brought out your own chemicals?
Is that a tennis court?
Jesus fucking Christ. Oh, you can also play pickleball? No one likes that. No one likes, if you're a tennis player, you don't like pickleball. And if you're pickleball, you don't fucking like tennis players. It's going to be a whole fucking problem.
our HOA deadite.
HOA deadite. Oh my God. I love this. We got
excuse me. Your roof is rotted in only 2 places. The rules specifically say it's rotting in 3 places.
Listen, I feel like these windows are double pane. And when I come at them, I just want the single pane. You know what I'm talking about? Yes, it's not as safe. Guess what? I'm here to swallow your soul. I'm not here for your safety.
Your house does not have an acceptable amount of moldering mounted moose heads.
Yeah. How many gourds you got in that basement? Because according to this paperwork, you need at least 10. And I'm only counting 5. All the pipes have to drip from multiple
Look, places. I don't want to tell you how to live or anything. But, we have some rules here.
When I say I don't want to tell you how to live, I do want to tell you that I will swallow your soul and you'll be dead by dawn. I'm just putting that out there. Like, yes, I understand that's a contradiction.
And by the way, the community bake sales next Tuesday.
Listen, this is the only way we raise money. Okay, those fees, those go to maintenance. If we want to have fun, if we want to have big parties where everyone can come to, and it's not coming out of your pocket for napkins, we have to swallow your soul tonight. Okay, all right, okay. HOA deadite.
Just pictures taking deep vows. You're welcome. No guarantees that this character will appear in later episodes, but it almost certainly will.
Yes. No, now that we've got it, we just don't let it go. We didn't personify the xenomorph nearly enough, I feel like, in our alien episodes. We should have given him a voice. I mean, if we have a rat voice, we should have a voice for the xenomorph. But what can you do? There is one, I hate to be directory, and this is not a visual medium, but there is one shot that I kind of want to talk to because I think it's fucking brilliant. And that is Cheryl begs Ashley to drive her into fucking town. I want to go to that La Quinta. I want to wake up and make waffles and be away from the woods that are sexually assaulting me. And so Ash drives her back, on the way back to town. He stops the car and gets out to examine something we don't really see yet. And as he walks, he tilts to the left. The car appears to be on solid ground. And he, as he walks towards camera, tilts more and more to the left. It's an incredible fucking shot. It's very simple to do because the car is actually cantilevered and he is actually walking straight.
Yeah.
But through Raimi's eyes, what he wants you to look at, he's changing that perception. It is so fucking unnerving. Every time I see it, I'm like, how the fuck does this work? And it's very simple. Like the car is tilted. The camera is just positioned where it makes it look flat. It's It costs you nothing to do this. And yet the effect is priceless. It is genius.
Yeah, it just everything is just so lo-fi, and yet it works and it's unnerving, but it's also oddly charming at the same time.
Yeah. And so they find that the bridge, the solid as a rock bridge, has been torn asunder. And so they come back to the cabin. And of course, Linda and Shelley are playing the Ghostbusters card game where they're trying to predict what a card is. And that's going to set somebody off. And it turns out to be Cheryl, who now has an active deadite inside her. And everyone's reaction to her transformation is fan-fucking-tastic. There's no part of it that is unsubtle. Just no. Everyone's mouth is as agape as it can possibly get.
Yeah, like you expect to see like their eyes like coming like temporarily coming out of their heads and then popping back in like a Hanna-Barbera cartoon.
Yeah, like they're a cartoon wolf who just saw a sexy lady. Like it's so amazingly, everyone is gone, holy shit, she's got oatmeal hands. And you know what?
She's just covered in oatmeal.
She's just covered in oatmeal. And you don't expect sudden oatmeal syndrome to happen here. And yet she is. And she's also not fun. She's not a fun personality at this point. She just wants to rip your soul apart. And so if you try to stop her, well, shit's going to go off. Linda tries to get involved. She gets a pencil in the ankle.
Oh, that is rough.
It does. Yes, it's fake.
He like cuts back to it like 4 times.
Like, well, they paid for that fucking ankle. They're going to use this, right?
Cheryl stabs Linda in the ankle. Linda lets out a very interesting scream.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to, Deadeye Cheryl kind of cackling. Then it comes back to the pencil, the ankle.
Yeah.
I think I killed him 4 times. That fucking pencil, the ankle. And she's breaking it off in there.
Yeah. I love the innovation. I love how she floats, and it's like a 2x4 coming through the window that she's attached to and whatnot. But it looks good. Raimi understands how to make something cheap look like not necessarily like $1 million, but make it look like, I'm not sure how he did that. And then you figure it out and you're like, oh, that's inventive. But it never lessens your enjoyment of the motion picture you're watching. He is
literally doing something with almost nothing.
Yes. And as a result, like, it's just intensely charming throughout. Like, you can feel it just feels handmade in the best sense.
But lovingly handmade, there's nothing half-assed about it.
Yeah. I do have to wonder what Linda was thinking coming to that fucking cabin in those wood clog shoes without socks.
No. And it's not like it's like summertime. Everybody's wearing long sleeves.
Right. She's wearing a sweatshirt over a cashmere sweater. Like, that is essentially her parka. And she might not have known that demons are out there, but ticks fucking exist.
There are
Put
ticks.
some socks on.
There are those little burrs that stick to your clothes.
Yes. No. And it ain't good. She still doesn't deserve the backhand she gets. And then Cheryl grabs a face full of Bruce Campbell and throws his ass into a bookshelf, which, surprise, surprise, does not have a bevy of books on it. And he takes that full on WWE style and then hits the ground, and the bookshelf falls on top of him. This bookshelf weighs nothing, but he manages to get stuck underneath it for a long time. There's a lot of acting.
Just pretend. Pretend it's very heavy.
And this is, I feel like there's some level of exorcist going on to the Deadites, right?
Yeah, I mean that's unavoidable because they are possessed.
Yes, and so it is that, but it's not as obviously the level up here is that it's not polite. It's not a polite possession. We don't get that. Oh no, this indigenous shaman won't get out of the lump in my back from Manitou, where she's just in a bed. These are very active possessed people.
Yeah, they're doing the taunting you, and they got the weird kind of looped over voice, and again, it's a cheap effect, but it's very effective.
Yes. And from what I understand, the contact lenses took 15 minutes to get in, and it could only be in your eye for 15 minutes. Bruce Campbell stated that it was like putting Tupperware over your eyes. Scott gives her the non-business end of an axe twice to the face and then locks her in a cellar. After this, we get a lot of taunting from Cheryl, who has turned into a fake Shemp here. She's just at times just a doll head, and at other times various crew members. She stops being Cheryl. She's something else now. She's just a hag.
Just a hag. I mean, whom some of us now has been just a hag.
I mean, I feel that way sometimes, certainly. Of course, Scott immediately to Shelley says, everything's going to be all right. And Scott, my dear, shut the fuck up. Yeah, any credibility you have just went up.
Yeah, everything's already beyond okay.
Yeah. Just like your credibility just like melted away like spit on an Alabama sidewalk in August. It just is ephemeral. No part of this is fucking K. I don't know how Linda is able to sleep after this, but she goes nighty-night, maybe from shock. I'm not sure. Do they have painkillers with them? Like they brought painkillers and she didn't bring socks? Who's to say? But she's out like a light. And when Ashley comes back into the room, it's Shelley's turn to go deadite. And you have to wonder why the first move of every demon is to make that woman's hair curl.
Just get a little bouncing and behaving in that hair.
Just all of a sudden, a pert commercial occurs when a demon is inside of you. Whereas before, you might have curtain bangs. Now, that's a wig, baby. So, yeah, so as soon as Ash is back in the room, Shelley's hair goes curly and she starts smashing and stabbing Scott. Not that I mind. And
I was going to say, who really has it coming?
He really, really does. And then he has like a Crocodile Dundee level knife in the small of his back. Like, it's like, that's not a knife. This is a knife on her, and tries to cut off her hand, which again is becoming a thing. And then Shelley's like, well, you got it halfway. I'm just going to bite the rest of it off for reasons. I mean, this is where I think the seed is planted for in the 2013 version, where they're just like, oh, I'm in a body. I'm just going to fuck with this because I haven't had a body in a long time. It's fine to fuck with this body.
Exactly.
And like, what does she care? She can float now. She doesn't need two hands. But what she doesn't know is that Scott has that special Kandarian bone knife with him that they,
which I guess he was planning on gutting a deer while they were on this trip.
I don't know, was planning on dueling someone outside. It is extraordinarily long. But he ends up stabbing that in her back. And then she melts. She just fucking melts. Shelley becomes a bad milk robot, Gina.
She does.
Another connection to Alien. And yeah, in a way, that's kind of the end of Shelley and our first true death, as it were, at least for now. She'll eventually get cut up and stuff, and we'll see if that lasts, because sometimes that don't do it. But we haven't really had a full-fledged death that we can count on yet. So instead of a choose your own death venture, We have to choose your own fake shemp. And that's where we decide of the several fake shemps that we've seen so far. And that is men playing women who are now deadites. If you could be one of those fake shemps, which one would it be and why? Up for bid, we have Cheryl's fake shemp or Shelley's fake shemp. What say you?
Oh, I love Cheryl's fake shemp. I mean, you got to spend all that time down that crusty cellar waiting for your to say your lines.
Mm-hmm.
Just that's to me, just them kind of watching everything and just mocking you the whole time. That's the most effective one for me.
Just doing riffs out of the cellar. Exactly.
It's like having your own. It's like having your own evil MST3K room heckling you.
The only drawback to being in the basement, which is what I also choose, but there is a drawback, and that is standing on uneven stairs the entire time. Because one of your legs is going to start to go, I'm fucking over this. You know what I mean? When you stand on an uneven surface for that long.
That's true. Yeah. One takes more weight than the other one.
Yeah. You start to feel it in your lower back. You're like, this isn't even. I don't like this. But who knows? Maybe a deadite loves lower back pain. That sounds reasonable.
Sure.
Josh Hollis does all of our artwork, and go to Revenge Body Memphis at bandcamp.com for this tune and all the remixes. Gina, where can people find you on these here internets?
I write about movies and television at thespool.net. I have a Substack, GinaWatchesThings.substack.com, and I am on Blue Sky sometimes under Gina Does Things, and also under that name on Instagram and TikTok.
Do it today, people. Check it out. You can find us on your various socials, your TikToks, your Blue Skies, your Threads, your Instagrams, your Facebooks, where we got a group where you can talk and chat with other fans like yourself. And of course, our Patreon, where we have bonus content up the wazoo, including chat by chat, where we answer your questions, bonus episodes, and film commentaries. That just about does it for this week. But don't worry, the body count will continue, as we will be back for volume 2 in just a couple weeks' time. For Gina and myself, don't worry, folks. We'll be back. We're just going to turn into a bad milk robot for a week. Until then, bye-bye.
Bye.